Okay, well, let's get started here. My name's Brian Conley, and I want to welcome you to today's episode of Bennett Adelson's Demystifying the Microsoft Cloud webinar series. Today we have John Corlett, a solution architect in Bennett Adelson's advanced infrastructure practice, speaking about Microsoft 365 cloud security. Across our client base, security remains a primary concern and a topic of discussion. Today's presentation is intended to provide insight into how Microsoft 365 enables customers to digitally transform while keeping corporate data secure and managing risk. So without further delay, let's go ahead and throw this over to John.
Hi, everybody. My name's John. Reality for today's business here and the importance of proactive security, I don't think anybody can argue. Phishing and ransomware attacks are commonplace and disrupt how we live and work. And we really acquire information, communicate it back and forth, things that require security. And in today's company, on their data, providing peace of mind that your information and data are safe is becoming more important to how we really work together and collaborate as departments, as functional units, and as the company. So Microsoft security vision is to really enable their customers to take advantage of the digital transformation and to embrace the technology that's available to them in a secure manner. They have a unique way that they do that. The first is about providing a secure platform of products and services. The second is their unique intelligence and breadth and depth of the signal that they have. And the third is the partnerships they have in the industry across technology, business, and government. So with their unique approach to platform intelligence and partners, this new understanding has led Microsoft to build new solutions for their customers. It informs their entire approach across really those three critical elements. So Microsoft has built a platform that really looks holistically across all your critical endpoints, building security into the platform as well as providing security tools and technologies for your business. And then with that platform, they act on the intelligence that comes in from their security-related signals and insights, and that really helps you and Microsoft detect threats more quickly. And finally, by fostering a really vibrant ecosystem with their partners to help them raise the bar across the industry, Microsoft really is finally acknowledging that they know you're not their only security vendor, and they want you to work with industry leaders and security partners and integrate that into the current technology that you use every day. So what are some of the ways that Microsoft enables that from the platform perspective? Well, Microsoft invests about $1 billion annually in security, and that's more than a lot of the other security players put together. And because of their large presence across the globe, they're quickly becoming the standard for enterprise productivity and security. They really have the responsibility as the world of cybersecurity expands to build the best solutions for their customers, and they take that very seriously. The centerpiece for their investment in intelligence is what we call the Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. And this is how they describe the way that they synthesize a vast amount of data from a huge variety of sources. So as you can see on the screen here, there's lots of different inputs. And to give you an example, the volume that we're talking, Microsoft analyzes about 400 billion emails from Outlook.com and Office 365 every month. And about 1.2 billion devices get scanned by the Windows Defender. So this gives them a great deal of signal into what's happening on the endpoints and where the attacks are occurring. In addition to that, Microsoft operates about 200 plus global cloud, consumer, and commercial services. So everything from the consumer side with Xbox Live and Outlook.com to Office 365 and Azure. So with all those services, they have a tremendous amount of surface area that they defend. Enterprise security for Microsoft is employed by 90% of the Fortune 500 companies leveraging one of those services, right? So Microsoft sees more attacks than most other companies on any given day just because of the breadth of their offerings. So they get a lot of information from defending against those attacks, and they implement that back into their security services. With all of the 750 million plus Azure user accounts, that also gives them tremendous insight into how people authenticate into Azure. And that combined with about the 450 billion monthly authentications performed against Azure Active Directory and Microsoft accounts, that really gives them additional insight into what is normal behavior when it comes to sign-ins and authentication to their services. And what's abnormal behavior, and how often it is that sometime maybe has the right password, but they're not the person that they say they are. So Microsoft learns a lot about defending that really important control point, the identity, by leveraging graph and looking across all this data. And here's some common things that you'll hear about talked in the news, in the security community. Phishing, most everybody's heard of the term phishing right now. It's everything ranging from the basic scams to the famous money from Nigerian princes. And they can either be just kind of sent out there as a broad spam, or they can be very sophisticated and targeted in what's termed a spear phishing campaign. Because of the breadth of types of campaigns that you'll see and the level of sophistications, that can make it a little bit difficult to train users and to really attack against this method of to defend against this method of attack. So everything from spoofing domains or email addresses to linking fake apps in the App Store can really potentially be used as a phishing attack. And then you'll hear a lot about ransomware also. That's really a subset of malware that the data on the victim's computer is locked or encrypted and payments demanded before ransom data is decrypted and access is returned to the victim, sometimes with Bitcoin, but sometimes with just good old cash. And those are just two examples of some of the things that are also being analyzed and learned from by Microsoft's graph. And it's really part of the realities of this digital transformation. So we didn't have to worry about this 20 some years ago when I got into the field, right? We were wrestling with Y2K and trying to get all of our dates correct. And back then I was even working in companies where I had to try to convince people to even buy a firewall. Think about that, where the network administrators arguing with the chief information officer about the validity of having a firewall in the company. And this was not a small business. This was a healthcare provider in the Cleveland market, and we had about 600 employees, and took us 3 years to get that firewall. And look at that into today, right? Technology's really changed the way that we're doing businesses today, and it continues to challenge security as we embrace the opportunities presented with both, cloud services and mobile computing to connect with customers and partners and everybody else that we share data with. We take on new risks every time we enable one of these new services. And traditional IT boundaries are really disappearing. And every day we're seeing new opportunities or new targets to attack. One of the biggest issues that we've seen in a lot of our customers today is this concept of shadow IT, right? Almost all companies have embraced the cloud at this point at some level, whether that's, the marketing department using Box or leveraging some other cloud service to do project planning or collaboration. There's almost everybody's using it a little bit, but it really starts causing problems when the marketing department decides to buy that on their own with a credit card without notifying central IT, and nobody knows that it's being used in the corporate environment. We call that shadow IT, and that's becoming more of a security risk for companies every day. The chief information security officers are generally challenged to maintain a good, resilient, comprehensive security posture because the old security mainstays, like I was talking with this firewalls or the intrusion prevention systems or security event monitoring systems that are really complex and they produce a lot of information. And I've worked with plenty of partners where, security teams buy point products from different vendors and they end up with, as you can see here, the average in over 1,000 employee companies are 70 different security products from 35 different vendors. That's why it takes a team of people to manage the security department, because there's so many skill sets required, because there's really no central management or single pane of glass that we all are reaching for or had been in the past. So, we're finding as we talk to our clients about security, and particularly about security in the cloud, it's important to really find a balance between powerful capabilities and what you can really maintain over time with your current staff and your current budget. No single provider will solve all of your security needs, right? But taking a platform approach and consolidating with a smaller number of providers eliminates many of those challenges. The trade-offs are you won't have every advanced feature in each point solution, or you may not be aligned to the security strategy your main providers adhere to. And that's some of the things that we as a partner can help talk you through and address. So what is Microsoft's stance in securing the enterprise with 365? Nobody would argue that the data is the most important, valuable asset in a business today. But you need to understand that the data needs to have multiple layers of protection in order to truly be secure. So the first layer that it really starts with is your authentication and the experience with automatic policy-based rules for access to sensitive information regardless of the location or the device type that you're using. Then you add threat protection on top of that, and that keeps users, data, devices, and applications safe by correlating threat information across your entire digital footprint and automating that protection, detection, investigation, and remediation. Then we add security insights to recommend ways to optimize the configuration of the security tools and provide a quantifiable measurement of your security posture. Microsoft 365 provides this holistic security that's kind of aligned to 4 pillars. And by helping enterprises secure corporate data and manage risk in like a mobile-first, cloud-first world, Microsoft 365, and specifically the E5 license level, enables customers to really transform and unify user productivity and these enterprise security tools into finally this single suite or single pane of glass that enables the modern workplace. So really the core tenets for these 4 pillars are identity. We want to protect users' identity and control access to the valuable resources based on some sort of user risk level. We need some information protection on our documents and emails so that those assets are only seen by authorized people. We'd like to see some threat protection against advanced threats and be able to recover quickly when there is a breach or an attack. And we want to gain visibility and control over the security tools with some management tool sets. This is all provided and focused on in these 4 pillars across your entire digital landscape. So for customers that really embrace the E5 suite, significant gains can be realized. We get this holistic security and capabilities that really can reduce the number of vendors that you can manage. These individual components that are purpose-built to integrate together with each other, which decreases your total cost of ownership because you only have one skill set to learn, or one vendor's training program to learn. And because the security is built in and it's not a bolt-on, deployment and ongoing management is really simplified for the security administrators or your security team. The capabilities extend beyond Microsoft products to a lot of the secure third-party platforms, apps, and services. And standard integration capabilities are there so you can connect to your other third-party or homegrown systems via APIs or other pre-configured connectors. And E5 specifically offers an advanced set of security capabilities really not found in the E3 license level. Some of those are recognizing the users and devices across your network dynamically and decide what level of access. Controlling access to this sensitive data via some labeling of data and policy matching to those labels, discovering the shadow IT use that you have, automating the security workload. I won't sit here and read the slide for you because you can see these areas, but I am going to get a little bit deeper into each one of these areas. The vast majority of breaches that we see today involve compromised identity. So identity and access management is first and foremost on Microsoft's mind. And being able to automatically change access rights for users if their accounts become compromised or require re-authentication for elevated risk levels is very cool when you see it in action. Microsoft can even notify IT admins when a user's credentials are for sale out on the dark web. So Access Manage doesn't just stop at some of your managed apps. The IT admins can discover third-party cloud apps that are in use and assess those risk levels or even block access at an individual cloud app layer. So with E5's We can automatically adjust the user rights. We can be notified when credentials or other risk levels are occurring with your specific users, and cause different conditional access rules to kick in. We can discover those third-party cloud apps. We can block access to apps. We can discover, restrict, and monitor privileged identities at an even more granular level, and monitor the access to the resources for those privileged identities. And that's all across a single solution that can protect the identity across both your on-premises and the cloud kind of directories. Sharing information with trusted parties is another big aspect of what people do today. The capabilities in Microsoft's information protection platform mean that you can set policies on a user level and automatically protect sensitive data in your environment. So whether that's newly created data, such as somebody inputting a credit card, or it's historical data that was coming from on-premises, you can protect sensitive data with even in hosted third-party SaaS apps like Salesforce or Dropbox, or when it travels outside of your walls via email or USB. That's leveraged with Azure Information Protection, or the new unified labels. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And then there's threat protection. So some of the E5 specific threat protection capabilities are, you're able to detect the attacks from both on premises and the cloud signals. You gain some much further insight into endpoint monitoring with the ability to quarantine a specific laptop during investigation. There's some advanced email protection against phishing and some zero-day kind of exploits. You have some deep insight into detecting and removing ransomware, and in some cases even the ability to recover those files. Detecting anomalies for suspicious user behavior without having to require specific rules in order to identify those. It's another really cool feature in some of the threat protection. And again, all of these capabilities here that we have on screen are unique to the E5 layer, and we have a slide that really shows the difference between E3 and E5 to help make it a little more clear for you. But security's big too, right? And the security management is just as important as some of the tools that are being offered. So the tools provide a more simplified and intelligent security management by helping you consolidate these tools across your on-premises, cloud, and hybrid environments, and ensuring that the security specialist teams have the flexibility and freedom to manage those controls for not only identity, but for the devices and apps that you use across that landscape. There's incident and event forensics reporting that happens, again, across your on-prem, Azure, and third-party clouds, and integration with non-Microsoft tools such as SIEMs or firewalls that will help you gain more quantifiable measurements of your posture and really help you make actionable recommendations for how to improve it. So just a few case studies to kind of show you the breadth of customers that Microsoft is seeing engaging in a type of E5 value argument. So, Whole Foods, we have one right down the street. They're one of the top organic grocers in the world. They're using Microsoft Azure Active Directory Premium, and that's one of the things that comes with E5. And they've integrated that with their on-premises AD to provide single sign-on to more than 30 kind of SaaS applications that are used across Whole Foods' environment. So with the hybrid model that they have in place, Whole Foods has reduced a lot of their identity and access management work and reduced its help desk costs by about 30%, which are really some critical gains for a retailer when you're paying for internal support that's really not generating much revenue. And, just as important, they're getting some enhanced security. So with their 90,000 plus employees hitting the corporate network from a myriad of devices, right, and personal devices even, they're much more secure than they were before they implemented the product. And then, Merck, more of a drug and pharmaceutical company, right? They took the value of E5 because really every company, no matter what they're producing, is a technology company at heart these days. And you've got to have security at the top of your mind. Fruit of the loom. When I think of hardened IT security, the first thing that pops into my mind is not an undergarment manufacturer. But again, fruit of the loom, and even the ASICS shoes, they have some pretty proprietary intellectual property that they want to protect internally. And by wrapping some of these features with Azure Information Protection and some of the endpoint monitoring and the centralized management, they're able to keep security at the top of their mind. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this E5 kind of licensing and take a look at some of the products that are included in that licensing and where they hit on those pillars. This presentation will be available on our website as a recording, so you can go back and look at these if you don't get a full description here. And although I could go on for hours, I promise not to. But here's an idea of the security categories that M365 covers, right? And then if you add security categories that other Microsoft solutions cover, you can see that there's not a lot missing. So you can get some services or partners that offer some managed security or managed service offerings like us to add some of these things and a couple integrations, and you have a pretty robust, mature security environment here. And the list of things that Microsoft does not offer anymore is getting smaller and smaller. So let's look at directly compare E3 versus E5. With E5, you get the Azure Active Directory P2 license, which gives you much more control on your identity and access with a little bit of heuristics built in. You get the AIP P2 level, which in the labeling of data gives you the ability to automatically apply the labels to documents that you have on premises, whereas the P1 only allows you the ability to use the labels. You also get Microsoft's Cloud App Security, which is really a core tenet on their cloud platform. If you want to label documents for documents that are already in the cloud, or you want much more granular conditional access rules based on cloud SaaS usage, or if you want to survey the number and breadth of cloud SaaS offerings that are in use currently today at your organization, Cloud App Security is what what you want. And then with threat detection, there's a whole lot of additional insight that you get at the endpoint and integration with other of the security tools with the Windows Defender ATP and the Azure ATP. And from the security management perspective, you just get some additional management reports and insights and capabilities in addition to the stuff that you do get with E3. So from a compliance perspective, really the advanced e-discovery or advanced data governance really gives you more insight if compliance is one of the important parts in your business, or legal's asking you about that, or you're under a GDPR, and compliance is really important to you. E5 is something you should definitely look at. From an analytics perspective, if you're an engineering firm or you need to use a lot of insight into your data, Power BI Pro comes with the E5 license. That's pretty huge. I think on retail, that's a fairly expensive license that you'd have to add at the E3 level to each user, and it's included with the license costs in E5. And then being able to leverage Skype audio conferencing, soon to be the team audio conferencing, or the phone system, the traditional PBX replacement, that is also included in E5. So, if you did have an old PBX phone system there and you were looking to replace it, you could with your E5 license. Another kind of look at some of the areas that E5 really enables above and beyond the E3. And we're really finding that a lot more companies are asking us about this. One of the reasons why we decided to put on this webinar, because what Microsoft's offering in these new bundles is really addressing some real world security challenges. So, a big one that we're seeing is I need to be compliant with my data protection for things like GDPR or government restrictions that we have or compliance needs. But even, the slide I showed you a little while ago where the average company with over 1,000 employees has 70 different security solutions from 35 vendors, and people are saying, it's enough. I want to consolidate my vendors and try to reduce that footprint. Or, maybe they had that type of environment and they did get a breach, and they were really surprised about their ability on how they could detect and respond to that breach and how that went. So they're looking for improvements in those areas. Or, the shadow IT. I think one of the customers I worked with, they figured out that all of the data protection that they were putting in place to their proprietary IP was all getting thrown out the window because people were sharing it with anonymous people from Box, and IT had no idea that they were doing it. So let's talk about a few of these security and compliance scenarios that you may be experiencing and where that E5 license can help you. One of the things we ask our customers to ask themselves are, do you know who's accessing your data, or can you grant access to data based on risk? Can you quickly find and react to a breach, or are users empowered to work securely from home or on their personal own devices? Enterprise level identity protection comes with E5. And to give you an idea of where those products fall in the spectrum of things, we have coverage in Microsoft 365 E5 across Office and the endpoint and in the EMS or enterprise mobility and security offering to give you many points of contact and multiple layers of protection. Data security. These are some of the questions we'll ask our customers when we come in to evaluate what their stance is on data security. And this is how some organizations justify that cost of difference between the E3 and E5 is through the control of data security and active information protection. And again, to kind of give you an idea of where controlling and protecting information goes, there's a lot of things that are offered both from the Office perspective and the endpoint and through what you would call the O365 cloud through EMS. And when people are discussing attack detection or prevention, these are some of the questions we'll ask during these interviews. And all of these areas have specific proactive attack detection and prevention capabilities so that you're constantly aware of what your threat landscape looks like, all from a centrally managed platform. Look at some of those figures there from an endpoint perspective on the right-hand margin. 91% of cyber attacks start with a phishing email. That's from a 2016 study. That's an alarmingly high amount. It's not necessarily a bad actor that's coming and trying to identify your stuff and go after your specific intellectual property. Your breach could be a result of a splatter attack or a cyber attack starting with phishing that was sent to, all the contacts in somebody else's address book. So it's important to stay up with that. And Microsoft, again, offers through the various products included with Microsoft 365 at the E5 level, this multi-layered, multi-pronged approach. So Bennett Adelson can help you with some of these things. We have a couple fairly short engagements that we can offer, whether your concern is, how's my general overall security and where could E5 maybe benefit me through our security assessment. We offer a quick few-day shadow IT assessment if you're concerned about other cloud applications running in your organization and you really want to identify what that is and discuss some strategies on how to mitigate some of those security threats. And we have a demo workshop where we can show some of the E5 tools in place to simulate some cyber attack scenarios and show you how those specific tool sets can help and create a remediation plan and roadmap specific to those types of defenses that you're interested in. And if you're not already on 365, we also have like a proof of concept that we're able to help you with, where we'll come in and give some major information around the fundamentals of security and the Microsoft platform and discuss what's needed to create a lab environment. And then we'll come in and work with your staff to have some hands-on labs and activities around the identity access management, information protection, and threat protection. And then we can come in and follow that up with a gap analysis for where you are today on premises and where you'd like to be in the cloud, and come in with some findings and recommendations and help you plan your next steps. We also are beginning to offer some security services and ongoing activities, so some operations as a service. We're finding that because the cloud landscape changes so frequently, and now that it's not software that you're purchasing and deploying yourself, it's somebody else's infrastructure that you're using, and software is maintained in Office 365 and things are upgraded for you, that a lot of teams can't keep up with the pace of change. And since we're doing projects and deployments of these things every day, some of our primary education is keeping up to date on all the new things that happen with Office 365 and all the new SKUs. So we really are experts at implementing and maintaining 365, and particularly their security tools. But we can also help you with the patching and updating of your systems that you're using in Azure, or helping you figure out once I've migrated all my mailboxes and network drives out to OneDrive, now how do I kind of meet and maintain some other regulatory or compliance requirements now that I moved all my junk out to the cloud? What do I do with that junk, right? Threat response, identity management, reporting, integration with your other third-party apps. We're very adept at all of those things, and we'd love to come in and talk to you about it. So with that, I'll turn it back to the audience and the sales folks and open it up. If you folks have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them for you.
Thanks, John. That's great. Hey, that concludes this episode of Demystifying the Microsoft Cloud. Just so everybody knows, there will be a copy of this on our website, a recording, and you can access that. And you can reach out to any of the people on the screen right now if you have questions or follow up on any needs. We appreciate John presenting the information here on M365 Cloud Security. And again, as he mentioned...
Excuse me, I have a quick question.
Sure.
For those of us who were not able to actually join the session, will you have the slides available?
Yes, you will be able to see the slides. Or if you don't see them on our website, go ahead and just reach out to one of us, and I'll make sure you get a copy of those. And again, this is Brian. Thank you.
All right, Brian.
All right, guys. Appreciate your attendance. We'll see you next month.